What if I told you 2 pizzas, a lab-grown burger, and an ugly sweater could explain where our future is headed? Hey, welcome back! Here's your quick jump into a few stories worth knowing. Tonight, we've got facts at the crossroads of money, tech, and culture. First, we'll talk about the time you could buy pizza with thousands of bitcoins and no one thought it mattered. Then, we'll look at meat grown from cells in tanks and why this food is real already. Finally, we'll discuss the origin of the ugly holiday sweater and how students' jokes could spark a global trend. Let's have a small break with one good story at a time. Did you know that Bitcoin started as a protest? After the 2008 financial crisis, Satoshi Nakamoto published a system for money that does not need a bank in the middle and hard limit of 21 million coins built right into the code. New coins are paid out as rewards for processing transactions, but thousands of independent computers around the world share one big ledger and reject any block that tries to break the rules or print extra coins. You might not guess what one of the first famous purchases was. On May 22, 2010, a programmer paid 10,000 bitcoins for 2 pizzas, just to prove this weird internet money could buy something in the real world. Back then, that was maybe $30 or $40. If those same 10,000 bitcoins simply sat in a wallet and Bitcoin later traded around $100,000 per coin, you're looking at about $1 billion on paper. That's why people care so much about being early. But the line is not straight up. Bitcoin has already had several brutal crashes, drops of 70 to 80% from previous peaks, 2013, 2015, 2018, 2022. Every time people said it's dead, it eventually came back with a new wave of hype. It's less a staircase and more a roller coaster, and you only see the full picture if you zoom out for years, not weeks. Big players have joined in. One US software company basically turned itself into a giant Bitcoin vault, buying hundreds of thousands of coins for its balance sheet. When Bitcoin's price moves, that company's stock moves almost in sync. For them, it's mainly a way to function as a public market proxy for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a reminder of how a piece of code and a small early community can suddenly change the way people talk about money. If this kind of story is your thing, Nibble has lessons on personal finance you can explore next. Since we're already talking about things that rewrite old systems, let's move from money to dinner. Imagine biting into a burger that tastes like beef, has real beef cells, but has never been part of a cow. That's cultivated meat. Here's what it actually is. Scientists take a few cells from an animal, give them a clean liquid diet of sugars, amino acids, vitamins, and minerals, and grow them in a bioreactor, a big steel tank that keeps the temperature, oxygen, and this food mix at the right level. Those cells multiply and form muscle tissue. Sometimes companies print that tissue layer by layer into a steak shape, sometimes they blend it into nuggets or burgers. It's not a plant-based imitation, it's genuinely animal muscle grown without rising and slaughtering a whole animal. 3 main reasons why cultivated meat matters: ethics, environment, and control. Ethically, it could mean producing the same type of meat with far fewer animals involved in intensive farming. Environmentally, if the process runs on clean energy, models suggest it may use less land and water and lead to lower emissions than some types of conventional meat. And in terms of control, producers can fine-tune things like fat, content, texture, and even added vitamins in a much more precise way than on a traditional farm. Early taste tests from food critics and chefs often say, "If you didn't tell me, I just think it's chicken," which is exactly the point. On the regulation side, a few countries have already said yes in limited ways. The US has a split system. The FDA checks the safety of the cell cultivation process and the USDA oversees the production plants and labeling. Singapore was first to allow cultivated chicken dishes in restaurants, and Israel has followed with its own approvals. For now, it's small-scale and may feel expensive, but the door is open. Brands you might hear about include Good Meat, Upside Foods, Aleph Farms, Wild Type, and others. Right now, they're mostly doing pilot dishes with selected restaurants and chefs, not supermarket mass market. Will it replace farms completely? Probably not anytime soon. Traditional meat, plant-based alternatives, and cultivated meat are more likely to live side by side. But the idea that part of our protein could come from tanks instead of fields is no longer sci-fi. It's already approved, cooked, and eaten. For the final stop tonight, let's move to rituals for a piece of clothing that turned irony into a tradition. The ugly holiday sweater. The idea started drifting into pop culture in the 1980s. Think overly cheerful sweaters on TV hosts, sitcom dads, and awkward Christmas specials. Then, in the 2000s, college kids and 20-somethings turned it into a bit ugly sweater parties, where the whole joke was to find the most ridiculous knit you could. Office parties picked it up, social media made the photos shareable, and suddenly, this wasn't just a joke, it was a mini-season. Brands noticed fast. Big retailers like Target, Walmart, H&M, and others now pump out whole ugly sweater collections every year. Niche companies went even louder. LEDs, jingling bells, 3D, reindeer noses, full-body onesies. In the UK, there's even a charity event called Christmas Jumper Day, where everyone wears something festive ridiculous to raise money for good causes. What once felt like harmless holiday kitsch is now a built-in part of the season. The interesting part is the shift in norms. Most of the year, the expectation is look neat and put together. Ugly Sweater Day flips that script. It welcomes humor, playfulness, and exaggeration. So, next time you see a rack of over-the-top jumpers with LEDs and glitter, remember, behind them is a small holiday economy of trends, parties, photos, and charity drives. A joke that quietly grew into a tradition. So, tonight we went from internet money that bought 2 pizzas and grew into a $1 trillion experiment, to meat that grows in tanks, to sweaters so bad they got their own holiday. 3 different stories, 1 pattern. The future sneaks in sideways and often looks ridiculous before it becomes normal. Thanks for sharing time with Nibble. Here, every 10 minutes turn into knowledge.